Hi, it's Michelle and I'm a certified holistic nutritionist. So today I wanted to talk about getting unstuck and moving away from that feeling of being stuck in your emotional eating patterns. And so I find for me personally, when I was moving through my emotional eating and binge eating, I always felt that I was walking through mud. Every step I took forward to help me, it felt like it took a lot of effort and it was very slow. And then I'd almost sink back in and go backwards and be in my patterns again. And it didn't matter all the little things I was trying to do, listening to the conventional advice and thinking that I could overcome this. I always found myself back in this pattern of binge eating or emotionally eating. And I remember this one time where I ate like 5 bowls of cereal and I was just sitting there, and it had been happening more often than I would like to have had it happen. And I just felt so out of control that at the end of eating all of that food, I felt so stuffed, so disgusted, so really gross in my body. And there was no one else to blame because I was the one putting the food in my mouth. And I just sat there and I just felt really disgusted. And how did I get there? And I kept comparing myself, like, why can other people eat normally or seem to eat normally, have a healthier relationship with food? Why am I in this position? Why is this happening to me? And why can't I seem to stop it? And really, when you get to those places, for me personally, it was such a rock bottom. And I just had this part of me want to figure out what was going on because it seemed to not be a problem for everyone else. And I thought I was doing, things to help myself, and it still wasn't working. And when I started researching and looking deeper into what was going on, that was the first step for me to feel empowered, that I could do something, there was sort of a light at the end of the tunnel. And so awareness was really the first step. When I, through all my research, realized that I was emotionally eating, that I was binge eating, that this was something that people had. I wasn't alone. So the first step was awareness and knowing that I wasn't alone, that there are other people experiencing it. Yes, a lot of people around me seem perfectly fine, but a lot of people still, they were experiencing something similar to me. And that made me feel less alone, and that, okay, so this is not just me. I'm not alone. The second thing was that there was a way through it. So awareness really was the first step to noticing and understanding that there was this bigger pattern. And from there, I was really looking at the trigger. So looking at what's triggering this emotional eating. For me at that time, it just seemed like it would come out of nowhere. I had no idea why it was happening to me. I would just all of a sudden feel so ravenously hungry, and I didn't know that I was being triggered into eating, that I was emotionally eating. And so when I started figuring out the triggers, so I worked backwards, I looked at the triggers, I realized that, I was being triggered into this. And the more awareness I had around my triggers, what was triggering it, so I could tell I was being triggered because for me personally, I would go towards the same type of food. And so every time I was going towards that food and just feeling this out of control hunger, then I realized I was sort of going towards that pattern. And then, so recognizing the triggers was a really big eye-opening thing for me to do. And then after that, when I recognized the triggers, really stopping in between the trigger and the moving towards the food to find out what was happening. So sometimes that would mean I would stop and journal to really find out and gain more awareness of what was happening in that moment. What triggered me? How was I feeling? What was really going on for me? And to really stop and feel what was happening, because emotional eating is really eating to cope with emotion. So if you stop and you pause long enough to really feel what's under the emotional eating, and you feel it and you learn ways to be with that, it helps you process and move through the emotion so that you no longer need the food to deal with the emotion, because you're actually looking at it. And then from there you can make changes or just kind of not go towards the food to cope or to have the emotional eating. But through all of these steps, what was the through line is awareness, just becoming more and more aware of the pattern and what's going on. Sometimes something's going on in our life and we just stay at the surface and we think, oh, that's just how I am. But when it becomes really painful, and for me, feeling so out of control, it was just painful. Feeling so stuffed and gross in my body was painful. Feeling just like I couldn't get a handle on something, and it was taking control of me. It was overtaking me because I knew the kind of life and the way I wanted to live and eat consciously, and yet I couldn't bring them into alignment. But when I started moving through this process with more and more awareness, I realized that I could do that. And over time, the emotional eating there were, from, let's say it was happening every month, it went to every, couple of months, to maybe once every 6 months, to once a year. And then now it's very easy to recognize it because it's so out of the ordinary for me that I can pause and be like, oh, what's going on? And really check in for true hunger. So if you are feeling like your emotional eating is really out of control and you don't know what to do, the fact that you're watching this means that you have awareness to move forward. So you're already going in the right direction. Awareness alone gives you this sense of empowerment and expansiveness and energy to move forward to find a solution. And so I would really highly suggest to seek out assistance and guidance to help you move through the process if you feel lost. And of course, I work with clients, but if you feel called to work with someone else that can help you, reach out to them and just to get more and more guidance, because sometimes when we're on this journey and we don't know what's the next step, we can feel really lost. So it's great to have guidance and someone to give you the steps and to show you that you have all of the answers inside of you, but to guide you in that direction. So emotional eating is something that I feel that, and I've seen in myself, you can get to the root of it and move past it and really use it as a way to go deeper into what's going on in your life and to move forward in your life in that aligned way that you want to. So if you have any questions about this video, please let me know. And also, please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. And I look forward to sharing more with you. And I hope you have a great day.